My name is Storm Vance. I'm the Client Experience Officer at Art of Mentoring, and I'd like to introduce my co-presenter.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sia Kupritzis, and I'm the Chief Customer Officer for WithYouWithMe. I mirror Storm's enthusiasm for having you all here today. In terms of what we can expect, we only have you for 30 minutes, and we want to make sure it's a very full and productive 30 minutes. Just to let you know, we will be hitting the record button so that you can have a circulation of this session to you afterwards and share with anyone who couldn't make it. So in terms of an agenda, I will kick things off with a bit of an introduction into what skills-based workforce management is, and particularly why you might want to start thinking about this as an approach to your workplace, given the challenges that we're seeing in markets at the moment. And Storm is then going to step you through some really interesting best practice insights and case studies into how you can start to think about closing skills gaps through mentoring and coaching. If you have a question throughout, please feel free to drop it in the chat. We have a couple of members of the team here who can answer as we go, and we can also certainly follow up with you directly afterwards if you'd like more information. Now, I do see quite a lot of familiar names on the list today, but there are some newcomers. So before we kick off, Storm and I might just give you a quick snapshot of who we are to set the scene. And Storm, I'll get you to start.
Yes, absolutely. So I am excited to share who we are at Art of Mentoring. And what we do includes designing programs from start to finish, really beginning with the end in mind, the vision of an organization, to tailor their programs that are so that they're aligned with the goals that they've determined to be what they're working toward in their organization. We have a mentoring platform where we have an algorithm where we start with designing how to match people, mentors and mentees, and then through the use of that algorithm, determine the best matches for both mentors and mentees as a program gets underway. We certainly implement expert training and support to make sure that people are equipped to be the best mentors and mentees that they can be. And everything that we do is research-based and based on years of experience, expertise that goes into developing the most robust, meaningful, vibrant programs for organizations so that we can, share their successes and make sure that everything they set out to achieve for their people through their programs is met throughout the lifespan of them. We have some of our organizations that you see in on the screen before you, but really at the end of the day, we are about empowering growth, leadership, and inclusion by developing mentoring programs that work. Whatever the goals of the organization are, that's what we're there to help implement so that the organization can achieve those meaningful outcomes for all of their people.
That's great. Thank you, Storm. And just a bit on WithYouWithMe, we work very closely with the Art of Mentoring. We are a global HR tech company that works with organizations to solve the skills challenge that exists in workforce end to end. So we also have a tech platform that organizations use to create dynamic skills frameworks that outline the skills their organization needs at both an enterprise and a role level to meet their goals. And then we also map existing workforces to show what capabilities are already in place. And with that powerful data, we can then guide them on how to close the gaps through either hiring, targeted upskilling, or mentorship programs through great initiatives like the Art of Mentoring. So now that you know who we are, we'll get stuck into the topic, and I'd like to start by setting the scene on why we're here. So we all know that the world of work is changing and it's causing systemic productivity issues for most organizations, and I expect that's why many of you are here today. In most organizations, you'll find that this idea of the skills gap isn't just an HR problem anymore. It's become a critical business risk that has got the attention right up through to the board level. And with the rise of things like generative AI and rapid digital transformation, the skills required to perform most roles are evolving faster than organizations can keep pace with. So we're faced with a lot of change, and we know that there's this inevitable and significant workforce skills gap occurring. And we've all been looking for ways to make sure that our teams and our people can stay motivated, engaged, and growing in the direction a company needs. And this is really the problem that has driven the widespread adoption of skills-based workforce management. So I'd like to dig into a concept many of you may already be familiar with, and that is this skills half-life. And it's a way of thinking that really underpins everything around how we need to think about skills management and employee growth. It's essentially a measure used to describe how long a specific skill remains useful or relevant before it starts to become outdated. So as an example, if a skill has a half-life of 5 years, that means in 5 years, about half of the knowledge or abilities related to that skill will need to be updated, refreshed, or replaced to stay relevant. And as you can see with that graph on the right, the half-life of skills is becoming shorter and shorter. And that's because of this incredible acceleration of technology, digital transformation, and things like AI. The average worker is going to need to reskill around 9 times throughout their career, and those with the most fungible or replaceable skills as frequently as 3 years. And for context, this rate of change is only expected to increase, and in just 4 short years, we're looking at a skills half-life as short as 2 years. And I wanted to start by explaining this skills half-life view, as it's one of those primary factors that is contributing to the national skills shortage. And it's a problem that traditional training approaches can't solve. We need to be thinking about our people and our workforces differently through the lens of this new workforce skills problem. And I've popped some stats up there on the screen that illustrate the broader landscape, but I do want to highlight the first one in particular, which is that we are now in a world where almost all corporate jobs require digital skills. And we all know technology is becoming increasingly accessible and impacting roles. And I will use a great example of why this matters so much, which is an AI example. And it was a project we recently did with the Australian Army. And it was exploring the impact that automation and augmentation would have on Army's workforce over the next 15 years. And we found that almost 50% of the entire workforce will be affected by both automation and augmentation. More than 20% of all roles are expected to interact with augmented technologies, and that's going to provide a 30% capacity gain for the workforce. So what all of those numbers basically means is that more than half of Army's workforce is going to need to upskill to be able to use new technologies as part of their existing roles, or reskill to have another area, reskill in other areas of the business to step into those positions. And I can guarantee you that this scenario is not just isolated to defence, it's happening at different scales across all of our workforces. Sorry about that. I just had a child come in, you might have seen. So we need to start really getting serious about understanding what skills gaps there are in the market and which learning and development strategies are the best way to build the technical and the soft skills that are needed to keep our workforces where they need to be going. So as HR leaders, where do we start in moving our organisation in the right direction? And I think it first starts with shifting how we think about the problem. We need to adopt an agile growth mindset about career pathways in and around a business over that traditional linear progression mindset. We need to be thinking about creating a dynamic skills-based ecosystem that matches employees to task requirements, that right person, right skills, right time thinking over the mindset of fixed jobs, roles, and functions. And we need to be looking to really targeted career development based on the up-to-date needs of the organisation. It's not necessarily what the employee wants or thinks they want to learn, but instead, how can they grow in an aligned way to that of the organisation? And finally, when closing those skills gaps, we need to be considering the spectrum of tools and people available to us to do this. It's not just about putting people on a training course or looking to a cookie cutter picture of what a leader or a mentor for that individual should look like to grow them. Instead, we need to create really tailored pathways and seek diverse experiences and perspectives to guide growth and agility. So there are 2 parts that we're really going to drill down into today in terms of how you can set your organisation up for success here. And it's how do you get the view of the skills you have versus the skills you need, and how can you build that capability in a really meaningful and effective way. So first up, let's start with how an organisation can get ready for a skills-based approach and implement actionable practical steps to have their people keeping pace with the skills they need. And to do this, we typically recommend a 3-step process called the 3 Cs. It's clarity, capability, and closure. And I've got a little slide here that walks you through that. So the first step to achieve clarity on the skills needed to execute an organization's strategy successfully. And this is about considering the actual skills that are needed for specific jobs or projects. So it's a shift from the traditional qualification or competency model that typically determines someone's suitability for a role based on their previous experience. And a great place to start in terms of getting clarity is creating a skills framework, which may sound complex. It can be as simple as traditional job or position description. And that's both technical skills, but also those all important soft skills that are required in the workforce. And having and introducing this universal language across an organization as to how you speak about these skills so that people can see where they fit, they can see where they may fit in other areas of the business. And looking at your workforce in this way really provides leaders with a view of the capability they need to achieve their organizational objectives, but it also provides a really clear, succinct signal to employees about the skills they need to build either for their current role or for their future roles. That then moves on to the next step, which is capability, assessing capability. What are the skills that your employees currently have? And there are many ways you can go about doing these assessments, but we would typically recommend a combination of an employee self-assessment coupled with a manager verification so that you have that dual approach that ensures there's a consensus on the real state of play in terms of existing capability. And this is also where we believe it's really valuable to understand someone's potential. What are the skills your people could naturally thrive at learning? It's a valuable perspective because not only are you going to understand where the quick wins may be in terms of directing someone to upskill or fill a critical void, but it can also be a really powerful motivational tool for the individual. So if we understand cognitive ability, learning preference, and psychometrics, we can map this to skills to understand what someone will enjoy learning, how they will best learn it, and give them some quick wins to get started on closing the skills gap, which is really important for motivation. And that does bring me to the third step in that process, which you can see is closure, where you can start to put those very personalized and targeted plans in place to close skills gaps with your people for their current or future positions. So just to show you how it all pieces together across that journey, here's a view of the skills-based workforce process in action as it relates to the organisation as well as the employee. So starting off in that clarity phase, we have the organisation understanding the skill demand. What are the skills the organisation needs to achieve its objectives? And then the individual getting real clarity around the expectation of skills for their role. Moving to capability, where we map the workforce, means we now have an understanding of existing capabilities and where there may be gaps or opportunities to upskill and grow. And the closure process means we've identified the gaps that need to be addressed and can start to build a strategy for how we may address it. Now, there are many different strategies. I've just popped some there up on the screen that you may implement to address closure. It might be hiring new talent in. It might be implementing some internal mobility between departments. Do you grow the workforce through learning such as mentoring or on-the-job training? In some cases, it may even be looking to things like automation to fill gaps or restructuring. But in the most important aspect of this entire process is that you now have that data from which to make the decision around to how to best close that gap. And this is how you can start to really align your various HR initiatives and approaches in a more meaningful way to the organizational strategy. What are the skills that we need and what are the programs that are going to take us there? And so that you can see this end-to-end experience for an organization, we're going to delve deeper into the example of mentorship. So I'll pass it over to Storm, who is going to walk us through some really interesting best practice case studies of how organizations here in the US are doing this well. Storm.
All right. Thank you, Sia. So we're talking about closing skills gaps and guiding growth with mentorship. It's really also about creating a culture of belonging, to have an organization that is sensitive to the diverse people within it, to the multi-generational individuals that create it, and really being able to harness and disperse that expertise, throughout the organization. So yes, closing some of those skills and learning gaps, but also creating an environment in which people can confidently develop their leadership skills and with trusting, mentors with mentees, and both really being able to go along that trajectory of their career progression, knowing that they have someone in their corner and that the organization validates that and believes in it and demonstrates that by the creation and implementation and long-term belief in mentoring programs. See ya. Next slide, please. All right, so here we have why mentoring matters. It's pretty difficult to argue with mentoring being a good thing. I mean, having someone who is, there to cheer you on, that unbiased person is a wonderful thing, and certainly has been around since millennia. We all know that it's a positive thing to have. While we have these specific things that matter about mentoring on the screen in front of you, I'd like to appeal to each of you kind of individually and ask you to remember who gave you a shot. Or who told you that you should take your career to that next level, or who was there for you when you got to that next level and really did not know what to do or how to do it, and was there for you to show you your own way based on the path that they have traveled. So having that kind of relationship really, for many of us, may have been left to chance. Maybe we were lucky enough to find someone who was willing to guide us. Maybe we had someone that we sort of unofficially just thought of as our mentor. Certainly, there are so many ways to have that kind of guidance and leadership for you throughout your career, but creating a mentoring program that is sustainable and meaningful for the entire organization, all of the benefits that you see here are reflected in it. That acceleration of career growth, boosting their engagement and retention, being part of an organization that they believe in and that they know believes in them. The leadership development skills that are associated with mentoring, these are aspirational, future focused. What are those skills that as a mentee continues along their career trajectory, what can they tap into based on those conversations that they've had with their mentor? Certainly promoting diversity and inclusion, bringing more people in for all of the opportunities that are there to include underrepresented groups and build that inclusive culture and really walk the talk of that and have those programs in place so it's demonstrated what you believe in and that there are these programs in place to show it. Increasing productivity, people who believe in what they're doing and are confident and happy to be part of an organization. Certainly the increased productivity is a hallmark of the importance of mentoring. And really, it's a proven strategy for millennia, but certainly that concept of mentoring for building a stronger, more engaged and future-ready workforce, tapping into the expertise that organizations have in order to make sure that everyone who comes on board continues to learn and grow from all of the experiences that people have had before them. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to jump into a few case studies here. We're going to be talking about Lululemon, Mazda, and Intel in particular. These organizations, you're going to see some shared characteristics about these programs, some differences for sure, but it's important to, at the very beginning, just talk about how what they share includes how they've implemented and constantly refined their programs, demonstrating their commitment to routinely providing innovative, creative, and maybe most importantly, thoughtful and tailored opportunities for people to be able to tap into the expansive expertise across these international companies. So with Lululemon here, we've got two programs that I'd like to highlight. One is their coaching program and one is their mentorship program. And the line out of the description of their coaching program that really has always landed on me, and I think that to share it with all of you, it's a good way to plant the seed of really what you can hope to do in a program. And there's so much evidence of this in their program, but it's about waking up to greater aspects of who they are and what they're meant to do, be, and experience as a human in and outside of work. So creating programs such as their coaching program and then also the mentorship program, which is focused on supporting career exploration, development, and progression. both of these programs work in tandem to demonstrate their commitment to having opportunities for people across the board, across the globe, in order to have those, silos crossed over, all of those departments that people work in and around and through, having someone who's there for you. Whether you are in the coaching program or the mentorship program, they've had these programs in place for a while, and the stories that emerge from them are compelling. And the way that Lululemon has invested their time and talent into the nuance of these programs, developing them, is really a testament to starting with wanting to support their people and then implementing both of these programs in a vibrant, robust way, so that they're continuing to allow those shared experiences to enrich the entire organization. See you. Next slide, please. The next organization that I'd like to share with you and the important work they're doing comes from Mazda. So Mazda founded their Women in Leadership mentoring program in March of 2020 as their first employee resource business group, and it's open to all of their North American employees. So a similarity, again, that I alluded to at the beginning, and I want to highlight here as well, is that their program aligns and operates with their Pride Point behaviors. So again, these are broad, future-focused, overarching skills and belief and just cultural, states of being in which this mentoring program really is built on. So developing professional relationships with that one-on-one mentoring guidance. So all of their participants are broadening their network. Something that I haven't mentioned yet, and is true for all of these programs, is as they're promoted within the organization, the benefits for mentees are certainly highlighted, of course, but importantly, the benefits to mentors can't be overstated. Each of these organizations, the mentors that participate in them report learning as much or more in many cases than their mentees, and the way that the mentors are able to, take on the ideas and the fresh perspectives of their mentees is certainly a key element of all three of these programs. So with Mazda, they, again, just with Lululemon and Intel, these are people who are scattered across the globe, and yet this program, like the other two, are able to, bridge those gaps and give each of their mentors and mentees, someone who is emotionally invested in the development of the leadership skills that they're practicing within their mentoring relationship. All right, see you. Next slide, please. All right, so the next organization whose program I'm proud to describe to you is from Intel. So Intel's program, again, like Lululemon, like Mazda, they have people all across the globe. And their interdevelopmental mentoring program is, like the other two, really just devoted to developing and sustaining those, career development actions for everyone involved. The engagement opportunities that it creates is in the hope. Oh, sorry, I thought I heard it. Are all about supporting a happy, inclusive, and productive IVE. So their next piece of their program description includes how important, confidentiality, non-judgmental, and constructive support is to the program. And that is also a hallmark of both Lululemon and Intel. Something that these companies' mentoring programs also all share includes that they're structured programs. So they have a beginning, a middle, and an end. There are key milestones along the way for each of these programs. They each start with the end in mind. What are the goals that we're setting for the program? And how does every action that our mentees and mentees take throughout the course of the program, how are they learning what we intend for them to learn? So starting with a bank of resources, with workshops, training throughout. So every program, as it starts strong, continues to stay strong throughout. That's also a hallmark of many of the programs, if not all, that we operate or have any kind of association with. Maintaining that momentum throughout, and then again, as a program draws to a close, knowing what those goals were at the beginning. What does a good job look like? How will we know that we've achieved what we've set out to achieve? And throughout each of these organizations, that is really paramount, to consistently be looking to, okay, at what point are we in this program? What do we want people to have, set their goals to achieve at each point? So the continual progress monitoring, and then importantly, the celebration of success at the end, and the validation of everyone's participation in each of these programs is as big of a part as getting involved in the first place.
That's great. Thank you so much, Storm. And the thing I love about the mentorship as well is it's really ensuring that you're having a well-rounded professional development program for an individual as well. I think all too often we automatically put someone on a course or send them to do some online training as a way to close the skill gap. And I think what you've articulated really beautifully there is the importance of putting the human at the center and having, people lead people. And I think in this age where we're looking at roles and workforces change so much with technology, that's a really important aspect of the program to have. So thank you for sharing those perspectives. We have covered a lot, and I know that we're getting to the end of this window, and certainly there's much more that we can explore, and we'd be very happy to do a follow-up session on this topic as well. But there are a couple of things that I think I'll just recap in terms of key takeaways. The first is that idea of the skills half-life and the real impact that it's having on business, and the need to really start to elevate these conversations in your organization with your leaders and incorporate this thinking into your forward planning. We need to get ahead of this inevitable skills lag that's coming. Adopting a growth mindset. How are we laying the foundations to enable sustainable and ongoing workforce growth? And this is likely going to be different the way that you've previously done it, again, given the different challenges. And staying focused on the skills that are needed for the tasks to be done. So that skills-based approach, as opposed to thinking in the linear set tasks and roles of an organization, is going to be increasingly important. And then finally, just that need to invest in constantly evolving skills, continuous learning, continuous growth, and really considering outside of more traditional training routes like a course or a college qualification, how can programs like mentorship, coaching, and precision upskilling really support your people to grow in the direction that you need?
Yes.
Sorry.
Well, no, I just wanted to add that the programs that I described today and programs like them exist to build people up together and to validate everyone's individual journey toward continually becoming who they want to be. And really investing in people's development like this is the demonstration of care for your teams and all of the potential within them.
Beautifully said. Now, we have our contact details there. If you do want to reach out, Storm and I are very happy to take any questions. Please feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. We will follow up with a copy of this recording, the slide deck, and our contact details again. So thank you again for joining us this afternoon. It was so wonderful to see so many people on the call. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you at the next one. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.